How you doing? I'm Kenyatta. Welcome to No Ideas Original Sports. I'm here with Theo and Reem. What's up, guys? How y'all doing?
What up, bro?
All is well.
That's good, man. Good to see you guys, man. Back again for another week of sports. So, just to recap, last week we had boxing match with Canelo, whatever. Theo again was able to call that fight in 8 rounds. Accurately predicted the end of the fight. I
Yes,
mean,
sir.
what'd you guys think of the fight?
I thought it was I thought it went as I had personally expected. I think I probably had to go into decision. Like you said, Theo, I know is right on point with the 8 rounds. I had to go into decision, but in terms of who would win and stuff like that, it went the way I thought it would, where Canelo would kind of dominate the fight. One thing I guess that surprised me a little was that Canelo seemingly chose not to really box. It seemed like he was out there just trying to fight. And he showed this time and in the past that he's more than capable of doing it. I just wonder who's next for Canelo. I'm hearing Caleb Plant, so I guess we'll see. But yeah, no surprises with the Canelo fight here.
Yeah, Reem hit a lot of good points, man. I gonna say too much, but I had Canelo winning either way, whether a knockout or a decision. I didn't believe Thompson would be a dangerous guy for him, so to speak, because he's more of a guy who was, I guess, pity pat. He has some power, not enough power, I guess, to gauge respect. And during the fight, and I thought Canelo was just cruise control. And probably said maybe middle of the fight, he'll probably put more pressure on him, so to speak. But as far as winning the fight, is I had seen that coming a long time ago.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. What was interesting is that before the fight, the guy wanted a bigger ring and all of this different stuff. But when he got in the ring, it wasn't like he was moving well enough to take advantage of the ring size or anything. So he kind of stood there and was available. The only good thing about it is that he didn't run. But everything was right on otherwise with him. He stood there and took that beating. And then I don't like the fact that he went out on the stool too. But I think I guess it's better to go out on the stool. Listen, I heard he might have had like a fractured orbit bone or something. Whatever.
Yeah, I'd rather go out sitting on a stool than on a stretcher.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, for our entertainment purposes, we like him to knocked out, but for his health, I guess he did the right thing. So,
Yeah.
moving on to football. Oh, go ahead.
I also want to add that he had a broken eye socket and then he broke his cheekbone in 3 different ways, man. I just want to add that to the show. So he was pretty much really hurt in pain, man. Cheekbone split in 3 ways and then broken eye socket, man. So I understand, sitting in the corner not coming out. The other guys just getting beat up and want to come out, man. He had, I guess, a real good excuse, man. That's very painful.
Yeah,
I can understand not coming out then.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to football, I mean, this week we heard that Tim Tebow went out and tried out for the Jaguars as a tight end. I mean, to me, I'm a little upset that he's even being considered. I mean, if you look at college football, how many tight ends were there in college football? How many guys on other teams that got cut? And we talking about Tim Tebow trying to be the tight end. What do you guys think of that?
and one thing I'll say with Tebow is I know throughout his career in multiple sports, the guy gets a lot of, or used to, I don't know about now, used to get a lot of hate because of like the whole faith thing and stuff like that. I know people weren't a fan of it, him, praying and stuff like that. So with all of that being said, I'm not really surprised to see him get another opportunity. Just because it seems like for whatever reason, these different organizations like him. Maybe he's somebody who's great to have in the locker room, or because to me it doesn't seem like the talent is why he keeps getting these opportunities. Not to say he isn't talented at all. I think the guy definitely has talent, but like you mentioned, Kenyatta, I'm sure they could have found a more viable candidate from somebody who didn't get drafted or a free agent or whatever the case may be, other than Tim Tebow. But I really don't have any problems with it. The guy seems like a likable guy. It just comes out of left field him getting this opportunity, but I guess we'll see how he does.
Yeah, Tebow's a guy that stays in shape all year round. Good clubhouse guy, a great athlete. He's one of those guys that we all have in our own neighborhood growing up. That one particular guy in our hood that always stays in shape, could play basketball, football, handball, stickball all year round. That being said, I have an issue with him waiting 6 years because, as a quarterback, he was okay as a quarterback. And he still had his doubters. So eventually, the day would come when people would doubt him or kind of brush him to the side without, I guess, not playing quarterback, so to speak. So once he realized that he wasn't going to be a quarterback no more, I guess he should try to be a tight end back then instead of taking a seat back, instead of being an ESPN analyst for 2 or 3 years and playing baseball for 2 years. He should convert to tight end right away instead of waiting 6 years. So that's the problem I have with him. But, listen, some guys have, good connection, so to speak, and he has that in Urban Meyer.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading something earlier where Benjamin, that used to be on the Panthers, whatever, the receiver, that the Giants signed him as a tight end. Was saying this today or something or yesterday. So, and he had been out of the game 2 or 3 years. So, what we saying is that there's a shortage of tight ends or something, or we bring recycling guys that have been out of the league 2 or 3 years. I mean, Tebow, he got some help from Urban Meyer because I mean that had to be a phone call made. But even still, I mean, if they come in and they play and they do well, that's fine. But it's interesting. It's going to be a tough call because when you go in there and you got to make that 53-man roster. I mean, is Tebow going to get some favoritism to make that 53-man roster over some other guys? We don't know. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
I mean, the tight end is a big part of their role besides blocking is catching these passes over the middle. So I'm curious to see what happens when he gets hit. I mean, he's been hit playing the quarterback position before, but I think that's a whole different ball game, going over that middle with guys just waiting to, hit you. So him converting this late in his career, like Theo mentioned, after all these years, it's going to be interesting to see when he finally gets hit, what happens. Does he go to a different sport? Does he, quit on the school, so to speak? What happens when he finally gets one of those hits over the middle?
I think that was him. I think he can catch the ball. Taking the hits, I don't know about.
He is a big dude, though.
Blocking for a running play, I'm not too sure about either. But I will tell you this: if Tebow gets hit and knocked out of the game, we'll probably see him on something like the Professional Bowlers Association. He's still gonna go to bowling then or something. He got a hookup in bowling or something. Either that or he gonna be riding thoroughbreds next week in the Kentucky Day.
Yeah.
He got somebody hooked up. He do everything. ESPN, TNT, and be calling basketball games. Who knows what he's gonna be doing? Oh, another thing that the Aaron Rodgers watched. So far, what's him? Matt LaFleur just to say came out and said that he's real eager to get Aaron Rodgers back and really wants him on the team or something. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers still maintains that he's not coming back. I mean, I personally think that I heard that after June 1st, the cap hit drops or something, so it turns to a little bit more manageable. Would you guys mind seeing Aaron Rodgers get traded?
I think that's where it's heading. Either that or he's gone to retirement. I don't really see him coming back to Green Bay at this point. Of course, from the organization perspective, they're going to say, we want him back, we love him, this, that. And I'm sure some of that is true. I don't think there's any real hate there per se. But, of course, they're going to say that to not diminish his trade value even further because now his trade value is already low because teams know that he wants out, right? So the organization, from their perspective, isn't going to do anything to further diminish his trade value by saying, yeah, we don't want him back or yeah, he has to go or anything like that. So I see him getting traded or sitting out the year or something like that. But I wouldn't mind seeing him get traded at this point. I think both parties need to just move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him being traded. Why not? A few other great players been traded in the past. So let them get traded. Let Green Bay do what they want to do, which is start over again and reboot, start from scratch again. And hopefully, both guys could, I guess, end this freaking frack decision or argument, on good terms, man. 'Cause at the end of the day, I want more money, man. You're not gonna get more power, obviously. You try all this year to get power, whether giving it to you. So now it's about money. So I'm quite sure they'll offer him some kind of extension. If he don't take that, then I'm quite sure he will be getting traded sometime before the season starts.
You know, Theo, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that. I think this is his last guaranteed year of money, right? I think this is his last guaranteed year. So
Thanks.
Right.
yeah, that's probably a real big point with this too.
Mhm.
What's the offer look like? How much money they're gonna offer him? Because I'm pretty much sure, depending on what that is, that probably could smooth some of this stuff out.
Right.
And then I think we touched on it before. I'm sure at this point in his career too, he wants to win because he's made money. So I'm sure he's only in it to try to compete for a Super Bowls at this point. And if you're not drafting players or even bringing in players in free agency that can help him do that, has got to build some type of frustration on his end. It kind of sort of reminds me of the whole New England Tom Brady thing where the organization is ready to move on a few years before they probably should be, and unfortunately for both parties, it's like this crossroads. And since the Tom Brady thing, right, he's gone on to appear in like 3 Super Bowls since they started the attempts to get rid of him. The whole Jimmy G thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like he's using that to prove a point. So maybe Aaron Rodgers does the same.
I think what's interesting about that. I think with these guys and when they do this, I think by putting this out there, it helps the Packers and it helps the Patriots because what happens is it would be hard for the fans to accept that you just got rid of Tom Brady or you just got rid of Aaron Rodgers. But in this scenario, Aaron Rodgers looks like the bad guy. So if they have to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, the fan base is going to be like, yeah, you see what Aaron Rodgers did. Same thing with Tom Brady. Tom Brady, they offered Tom Brady a deal. He just didn't take the deal, so they could live. The fan base like, oh, Tom wanted to leave. So for Green Bay, by putting this out there, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers necessarily put out there that he didn't want to come back. You never heard about him having a press conference or coming out saying, I'm not returning to Green Bay. I wonder how that information even got out there to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, supposedly he told teammates and people within the organization, but yeah, how did it get out? It's interesting.
I don't think he said that actually, man. If he did, it came out a long time ago. Get everything leased out within 24 hours, 40 hours tops, man. So, and if it did happen though, don't trust that guy no more, man. Whoever that person is, he supposedly said that too. So,
yeah, I think you're right there. I don't think his intention was to make this big media thing about not coming back.
right.
Yeah. Well, right now we're wishing we are in the beginning of the new NBA playoffs with the new playing format and everything else or something. So, what do you guys think of these playing matchups so far that we got these last seeds? I know Golden State secured one. I was hoping for Memphis,
So,
but
who are the playing team before we move forward? If you guys know.
let me just confirm who they are because what's interesting is that if Memphis would have won, the Lakers would have had to play in the playing game. So in the East, you got Boston, Washington, Indiana, and Charlotte. And in the West, yeah. And in the West, they still in that. Oh, something happened. The Lakers must have lost. The Lakers are still in that playing category. You got the Lakers, Golden State, Memphis, and San Antonio. That's 7 through 10 over there. So the first matchups we got the Lakers and Golden State, and we got Boston and Washington. I mean, for me, I could just start with the East. Now, I would just say this: looking at Boston and Washington in that matchup, I mean, a month and a half ago, nobody would be saying this, but I really believe Washington's going to win that game. Jaylen Brown is out. Boston hasn't looked the same. I don't even know is Kemba even playing. They just haven't looked the same. So I mean, for that 7-8 matchup in the East with Boston and Washington, Washington just went on a tear. And again, I think we talked about it before previously about Russell Westbrook and what he's been doing, or whatever. Bradley Bill's back, so I think you got two teams trending in the opposite direction.
Now, how did Bill finish the game today? Because I know he was coming back from that injury where it looks like he pulled a hamstring or groin or something going on there. I know at the beginning of the game he wasn't doing too well, but I'm curious to see what he finished with. How did he look? Like you said, Westbrook has kind of been dominant. Averaged another triple double. Seems to be hitting his stride. He seems to really fit in with this Washington team more than he did with the Rockets. Westbrook, so they're definitely dangerous. Like you said, Boston is trending in the opposite direction. You got Tatum, who's kind of sort of banged up a little. There's a ton of players who's banged up, but Tatum is banged up. Kemba, I think turf toe. Like you said, Jaylen Brown is out for the rest of the year with a wrist injury. He had surgery. So Boston, yeah, they're going in the opposite direction. So I could easily see Washington winning that game. In terms of the West, I know the Lakers play later on. So do they control their own destiny, the Lakers, or no matter what,
No,
they're still in the play-in?
they're in the play-in. They're in the 7-8. They're in the seventh position because I don't know how it worked out. I'm looking at the standings now. Hold on, let me see. Make sure this is final.
Yeah, because if they control
Well,
their
no,
own,
no, 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 no. I think the Lakers don't they play tonight?
yeah, the Lakers play in 3 minutes actually. Coming
Well,
up, and so
if the
does
Lakers, well, basically, okay. No, the Lakers won't be in the play-in game. The Lakers got the Pelicans without Zion Williamson and without Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. I think both of those guys are done for the season.
and I
So they
know
play the Pelicans.
Lonzo's been missing games here and
Yeah,
there.
I think he's out too. So basically, they're playing the Pelicans without the three main guys. If they win, they don't have to play in a play-in game. So I would be surprised to see them lose that game. Or another thing is the Nuggets play the Blazers. If the Blazers win, if the Blazers win, then they get the six. So it's interesting. I mean, one question I have about that, and you tell me what you guys think of this. If you're Denver and you can put the Lakers you're already the number one seed, and you can put the Lakers in a position where they got to play extra games. Do you lose this game?
I
Um,
would say no. You play to win, man. I'm not gonna do that, man. You play to win. I mean, you can't work with nobody else, man. At the end of the day, sometimes you gotta let people know, like, listen, no matter who we play, we're the better team. So I don't believe in seeing players out. If players want to play, let them play, man. But I believe in trying to get a win and let people know in our division that we're the best team in the league. So we trying to win on course.
and
Yeah, I don't.
I think I want to say Phoenix may have clinched the first
Yeah,
seed, right? So Phoenix
Right.
is the first seed. But like you said, is Denver number two? Is it?
no, they. I'm looking at it. They pretty
Right.
much have to win too. You know why? Because there's a difference. Well, it's the difference between being a 3 and a 4 seed. So if you got the Clippers playing tonight and you have Denver playing tonight. So if they both win, I think Denver holds the tiebreaker. So Denver will be 3 and the Clippers will be 4. But whoever loses out of that is automatically going to be 4. So there is a reason for them to play and win.
Yeah. Plus, like Theo said, I think you kind of sort of got to go out there with the mindset to win, and whatever happens, happens in terms of seeding and stuff like that. The only way I wouldn't play to lose regardless, but the only way I would kind of sort of take it easy, let's say, is if one of my main guys has an injury or something, and I want to rest him a little bit more, but I don't know because the playoffs don't start until next week, right? I think the 22nd.
Yeah.
If you're in that play-in, then of course you get less time off.
Here's an interesting thing too. I don't know who owns the tiebreaker, but you know that Phoenix won. So yeah, Phoenix won, so Utah's guaranteed to have it.
Yeah, I think Utah right now on the standings show as being a game, a half game right ahead of Phoenix.
So I
But
wonder
I
if they
believe
lose.
Phoenix owns the tiebreaker regardless. So even if Utah wins, then Phoenix is gonna be the number one seed because I think they own the tiebreaker there. So I think
Yeah,
that's why they're already penciling Phoenix in as the number one seed, regardless of what Utah does tonight. But either way, if I'm any of those teams, I go out there and I look to win, and whoever I play, I just so happen to play. One thing I'll say with the play in is initially I wasn't completely against it, but I wasn't for it either. But now it's definitely added a lot more excitement because I think they said coming into today's games, there was like 20 different possible scenarios that could happen. I can't remember the last time the league has been this interesting on the last day of the season. So it does have some value there. And I'm sure Adam Silver is counting dollar signs
yeah.
because of it.
I will tell you something interesting about this. Looking at the playing games in the East and like how teams are trending, I wouldn't be surprised to see your final 7 and 8 seeds be Washington and Charlotte. Charlotte, even though they lost to the Knicks and they was losing, Charlotte's playing real well. And remember, I told you guys about Miles Bridges weeks ago. Miles Bridges, man, especially when LaMelo's there, different type of player. Somebody to get him the ball in a position where he doesn't have to do all the extra stuff. But I think Charlotte's playing well. Indiana, they're not. I don't know. They kind of fizzled out. I heard something crazy about the players don't like the coach or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. They supposedly have a bunch of internal issues there. Um, and they're like you said, they're trending. It seems like they're trending in the opposite direction heading into this play-in. Not to say they can't win and get in there, but I don't see it. Like you said, I think Charlotte is kind of trending right now in a better direction than Indiana.
Yeah. And I think they had a much tougher schedule these last games too, because I think initially when people seen the schedule, they didn't take into account that teams like the Knicks, Atlanta, nobody thought these teams would be as good as they actually are. So when you look at Charlotte's last games, they played some pretty tough competition, and they played them close. That Knick game was close, the overtime one. So that's really interesting. In the West, I mean, I don't know. You got the Lakers of Portland. I'm guessing Portland will probably be in the play-in, and the Lakers will probably be out of it if I had to say so right now. But you got Portland, Golden State, and Memphis, San Antonio. So I mean, realistically, Golden State is trending upward. They definitely are. Portland is Portland. You never know what team's gonna show up or something. I don't know. What do you guys think of that matchup, the Portland Golden State matchup?
You called it, man. You said yourself. What team will show Portland? The talent is there, man. Who shows up is really the issue, man. You look at my paper eyes right now. You probably lean towards Portland over Golden State. Steph Curry is great. I guess little kid, matches output too as well. But Portland is a funny team, man. I can't put my finger on it. What's wrong with these guys, man? They'll beat the Clippers, the Lakers, and top team go win 10 straight, and then they lose to the Hornets and the Cavaliers 3 games in a row. So, like Kenyatta said, man, who shows up is remain to be seen.
Yeah, that's a good point. In that matchup, we know more than likely Steph is going to show up. That much we know. I don't
Yeah,
even know.
we know. Yeah.
For Golden State to show up, as long as Steph does, then that puts him in a good position to win. Yeah, like both of you guys said, Portland, you don't know who's going to show up. Damian Lillard, for the most part, usually shows up. He's known for having big-time performances in big games. CJ is usually pretty clutch, too. It's just that I don't know about that supporting cast. Is Nurkic going to be – how's he going to perform? Yeah. Carmelo is kind of like on the tail end of his career. He has ups and downs, which Carmelo is going to show up. So they got a lot of question marks there. But the one thing I'll say with Portland is if they don't win, it's obvious. I think they move on from Terry Stotts. But in addition to that, do they move on from the Dame and CJ pairing? Do they trade one of those guys for multiple pieces and just either rebuild completely from scratch or do like a half rebuild? It's apparent that it's not working at this point.
You know what's funny about that team is that I think a lot of teams now are being built around the backcourt, and I like their backcourt. It's just that their front court players are not particularly good at any one thing. Like, other teams might have a guy that can rebound and block shots, or somebody that scores or stretch four or something. Those guys, like, I mean, if you look at Nurkic, can you tell me one thing he does dominantly? Like, he's not a dominant rebounder. We know he's not a dominant defender. I mean, he's going to get you 14 to 18 points, which I'm pretty much sure you could get from most, not bad guys, but from many serviceable guys. So you can't really count him as a third option. I mean, they done rotated so many small forwards in between Carmelo. They got the guy that shoots three is the defender that he went from Philly to Houston. Now he's there.
Covington?
But, yeah, Covington. So now, realistically, like, they need somebody else. They need somebody who's really going to come out there. Like, this whole big three thing, there is some kind of like validity to it. You need somebody. You either got to trade one of those guys for two guys that you believe in, or you got to get somebody else there, so to be able to clean house with those guys, because they had some thoughts. Remember the guy they drafted? Was he from Gonzaga? The tall guy that he was pretty good, and then he got hurt, and he's never been the same.
Oh, Colin?
Yeah, he's never been the same. So at one point he was looking pretty good, and I thought that would have worked out. But they just don't. They need to do something with that roster, and I think this might be the year that they might do. But I do think Terry Stotts is probably on his way out.
That also applies to Nurkic too. He was great before the injury. He was balling out his mind, Nurkic, man, before the injury and broke his leg. So he had the same play after the injury. Of course, I kind of put them, I guess, a half step back or step back before his injury, so to speak.
Plus, the other piece with Portland is that with Dame and CJ, like their skills kind of overlap. Neither one of them are really great defenders. They both need the ball in their hands. Like if one of them was at least like a 3-and-D type of guy, or they don't need the ball as much, or they're mostly just pure scorers, Yeah. They're not really playmakers per se. They can play make, but that's not their strength. So they kind of overlap in terms of skills.
See, you know what's interesting about assists and playmaking and stuff that I think people take for granted. So when you see a guy and you look at the box score, it says he's had 8 assists or different stuff like that. There's different types of assists. Like when you go out there and you see somebody like LaMelo, he's distributing to distribute to people to score. The other guys are distributing when they can't get their own shot off. It's two completely things. I'm double teamed, so I gotta pass it. Here you go. Not trying to get the ball to the guy that's open. So when I look at Dame and those guys, don't get me wrong, I'm pretty much sure he could do it the other way, but Dame's passing is more so based on him not being able to get his own stuff off, as opposed to him trying to set people up. Like, as much as, Westbrook, like, you either love him, hate him type of thing, Westbrook's assists are to set people up, because we know he's not no 3-point shooter and he's not no long distance shooter. So his passes are to get people involved in the game. So that's what you look at like with the assists. Even to some extent, Steph's assists, he gets them, but it's not so that he could set up on Wiggins to get to the hole. It's because, okay, I'm passing the ball now because I don't really have my shot. So it's different. So even if one of those guys was a guy that was a pass first that scored, a passing guy that scored, that probably would change the complexion too, because some of those other guys could get more open shots so they could do more things. But you can't rely on guys like Nurkic and them getting the ball. Like, okay, now we don't just lost 16 seconds on the shot clock. I'm gonna give it to Nurkic to create his own shot. That's not gonna work. So they got some interesting things to think about. When I look at the rest of the West, I think Memphis, San Antonio is a pick 'em. I mean, who knows who's going to win that game? I'll tell you the truth. I'm a San Antonio fan, and I wouldn't be mind seeing Memphis win that game. It sounds crazy because I think San Antonio is another one of those teams where, first of all, they got 6 or 7 guys that play the same position. Somebody's got to change or go. You can't have DeJounte Murray, Patty Mills, Larry Walker, Rudy Gay, Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson. How many 2s and 3s? I mean, yeah, you call DeJounte Murray the point and Patty Mills, but you basically got 8 guys playing it. That's kind of the Knicks thing. Somebody's got to go on them too. They got 8 guys playing the same 2 positions, and none of them is really like, where they like standing out that much, where this one is that much greater than that one. So they got to do something. Like, I watched the Knicks games, and I'm alive because you guys are Knicks fans. At remember 1 week we were saying they need to get rid of Alec Burks. The next week they're like they need to get rid of the other dude. Those 2 dudes are the same player. Burks and what's his name?
And
Bullock. And Burks and Bullock are the same player. They the same player. So they do the same stuff. Bullock plays a little more D. And I think Burks is a little better scorer. But as far as what they give you, it's the same thing.
Right.
So I was watching a couple of games last week. I'm like, man, maybe we need to keep both of them.
yeah, it's not a bad idea. Price is right.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe they both need to stay. Because you think about it, in the last week, without those 2 guys, you had some losses there without Bullock and Burks. So the one thing they both have that's a proven commodity in the NBA, they both can shoot.
Yeah.
They both can shoot, and that's like a proven commodity in the NBA. Like, you don't give up shooters.
Yeah.
Both those dudes will be around in the league for pretty much a bunch of years just from showing what they could do.
For sure.
But I was looking at them like, we was talking about getting rid of this one. Now we're talking about getting rid of this one. Day to day, it changes up on who should stay and who should go.
Yeah.
I mean, you gonna laugh? I really think what's gonna end up happening. I really think from a Knicks perspective, they're gonna move RJ Barrett to the 3.
It's certainly a possibility unless they I don't know who they would bring in, like in terms of signing at 3 in free agency or trading for one. But if they can't trade or sign one in free agency, or this summer, I should say, then yeah, I could easily see RJ potentially being moved to the 3 if they can easily like get a 2. It may be easier to get a 2 guard or slide Burks into the 2, or right now they have RJ at the 2, right, and Bullock at the 3, which isn't bad. The main guy jumping to the Knicks that I think they need to get rid of for starters is Alfred Payton. I think every game. I think at this point the only reason why he's starting, in my opinion, is because Tibbs wants to keep that continuity, right? They've gone kind of sort of with that same starting lineup for the entire season, unless Payton was injured. They've gone with that starting lineup. So I think Tibbs wants to just keep it that way. But at this point, Payton is hardly playing. What did he play the other day or today? 12 minutes, 10 minutes. So he's I think he needs to be out. The other guy who's borderline for me, unfortunately, and it's mostly due to injury, the guy is talented, but I would say Mitch too. Depending on what I can get for him. I'm not just going to go out there and get rid of him, but Mitch is a free agent at the end of next season, and seeing the way Nerlens is protecting that paint, how much do I pay Mitch to do pretty much the same thing? Granted, Mitch is better at catching lobs, but I would say Nerlens does a good enough job on catching an occasional lob, and he protects the paint probably even better than Mitch, and he's less injury prone. And he's probably, I would imagine, would be a lot cheaper.
So before we go forward, I just want to get you guys' prediction on something, because the Knicks and the Nets and the rest of that stuff, we're gonna go down the rabbit hole with those. So we got LA, Golden State, Memphis, and San Antonio. Who's gonna be 7 and 8?
I'm going with
Portland, Golden State, Memphis, and San Antonio.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm going with LA to get into the 6th seed, and 7 and 8. Let me see. 7 and 8. I like the way Golden State is playing with Steph right now. And I'm gonna go with Memphis.
All right. What do you got, Theo?
I'm putting for John Morant, so I'm a little biased on that one right there. So That's why I want to see Memphis go. Man. I like John Moran a lot. The Portland game is really a toss-up, man. It's really a toss-up. It's like, is Curry going to score 40 or 50 from guys who are advanced? Or is Lillard City going to take over the game themselves? I'm going to go Portland on that one.
Okay. The good thing about it is Portland, right? Portland would go to the 7th seed, right? The way it stands now, assuming the Lakers take care of business, right? Portland goes to the 7th seed. Golden State is the 8th seed. So those two teams are going to play each other. But from those, the loser gets another chance to get in, right? So the loser is going to play the winner out of Memphis and San Antonio, right?
Saying that, I'm going to have to go with Portland and Golden State.
That's why I'm bringing up that point, is there's a good chance that Portland and Golden State are going to be in there because Portland is going to get a second opportunity if they lose to Golden State in this first game. And as much as they're up and down, I could easily see them beating the winner out of Memphis and San Antonio. It's not a shoo-in because, like we discussed, they're up and down, but I could easily see them beating either one of those teams to get in.
And now that you said it, I just thought about it. Both of Portland's game are going to be both home games because they're going to be the highest seed, so they'll play both home games. Golden State will play one home game. All those other teams are going to play road games because Golden State's the 8th. So if Golden State loses to Portland, those other teams got to come to Golden State. If Portland loses, they still the highest seed, and those teams still got to go to Portland. So Portland could get 2 home games. Those other teams have no chance of getting a home game. So, I think Theo may be right there. Portland has a much better chance of winning in Portland against Golden State.
Now, one thing, like I heard them talking about on TV is I think, and this is a good point, and I think we touched on this before in terms of the play-in, is I think in order to, let's say, initiate a play-in, I think that the teams, there has to be a certain gap in between the teams. And what I mean by that is, like right now, it is relatively close, right? But if you look at it, San Antonio has 33 wins, whereas the Lakers and Portland have 41 wins. So that's an 8-game gap. And potentially those teams could not end up in the playoffs, but you would have, let's say,
500 team.
This tournament, San Antonio, 33 wins. Now they're in the playoffs over a team 40-something wins, So I think the league kind of sort of has to figure that out if there should be a gap. Because I think the separation there, it can't just be any separation, in my opinion.
You know what? Maybe it should be something. Maybe the play-in should kick in if everybody's at least 500 or something. Like
they got to come up with something, I would say.
Yeah, we could do the play-in. Everybody's got to be above 500. If you're not above 500, you don't qualify for the play-in. Nobody plays in. Maybe it just turns into like the last two, the 8th and the 9th. Then, but if you're not 500, I mean, that's that. I get that.
All right.
And I mean, again, it's been exciting looking at it from a fan perspective in terms of the last game of the season, 20 different scenarios, and last season we wouldn't have been having this conversation, right? Because everything for the most part would have already been determined. So I get from that perspective, but from the team's perspective, I can see where some of that frustration is. Like if I'm Portland and somehow I don't get in, and San Antonio does. Granted, I controlled my own destiny to some extent, but under normal circumstances, I would have been in there. I would have been a 6 or 7 seed.
Yeah, you wouldn't even been trying to. You know what? That's bad for the owners too. Because think about it this way: if you're a 7, 8 seed, you guaranteed to have a couple of home dates in your arena or whatever. Here, if you lose in this playing, it's a 1-game thing. So a lot of times these teams count on these playoff revenue and stuff like that. You don't end up getting the games because you were saying you done lost in the play-in round or something. Now you got to figure in these series. What are they doing? 2-2, 1-1-1.
That's a good question. I'm not even sure. I know they played around with the 2-3-2, which is
that's crazy.
That was bad.
Lose one game at home and your series could be over.
Our away team, the 2-3-2 format. So I kind of like like you said, the 2-2 1-1-1 or whatever it is, that's a little better than the 2-3-2 format. It's more traveling involved, which is why I think they try to go the 2-3-2 route, but I don't think that's the best decision.
Yeah, there was teams that never made it back home. They lost one game at home, and that was it.
But this plan so far seems to not, I wouldn't say necessarily favor, but it gives teams like the 9-10 hope, right? Versus teams that are in the 7th position. That's just more frustration for me because normally I would have had that locked up. Now I got to get in.
You're right. So now when I look at the East, right, realistically, Boston is 36-36. The other teams are 34-38 and 33-39. So they're all below 500. And right now, Boston's playing Washington, and I really don't think Boston's going to win that game. I think Washington's going to win it. Then Boston's going to have to play either Indiana or Charlotte. I don't even know if Boston will beat any of these 4 teams right now, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, me either, considering like their health situation. And normally they would have been in the playoffs.
Yep, Boston might be that team.
But for a team like the Hornets are excited, right? Because that gives them an opportunity, whereas they normally would have been out of the playoffs. They just playing tomorrow's game, tonight's game, or whatever it is, today's game would have been meaningless for them. But now they're fighting still, they still have a chance, which again adds a little bit of excitement. But from the team's perspective, I could see that frustration. But I think you hit a good point before, Kenyatta, when you said, where was all of this frustration and discussion early on in the season? When the season started, why didn't the team speak up? They're the ones who voted for it.
Yeah.
In format, Adam Silver didn't just pull us out of nowhere, and didn't get any approval. They voted for it.
Sad thing about it is, what happens. People rubber stamped it. They didn't even pay attention. There's probably like a list of things to vote on, and they happen to be on the list. They just, 72 games, play-in game, whatever. We just want to play. Rubber stamp. That's that.
That's true.
And now they're saying it might be here to stay, at least for the foreseeable future.
I think they do need to make some adjustments, though. But because if you get these sub 500 teams beating teams that's 500 or over and knocking them out in one game or 2 games, I can see owners having problems. Imagine if the Lakers end up in there and LeBron and them got bumped in the playing game. What happened?
That's when they'll start taking issue to it, right? When some of the stars start getting eliminated from the playoffs, whereas normally they would have been in there.
Yep.
Once LeBron is not in there because of this, Luka, the guys who they trying to market the league around. Yeah. Once a bunch of those guys aren't in there, unless they're being replaced by other guys that they want to see. Let's say the Pelicans was in there, and they're, as much as they're marketing Zion, right? Let's say his team from the 10th seed sneaks into a playoff. Then they got some marketing around that. Yeah. But a bunch of their stars are going to be voicing their hate for it. We already seen it, right? Luka spoke up, LeBron spoke up. So it's going to be interesting. I think it's a decent idea. They just got to make changes to it, I would say.
Think about it from us right now. If we look at the teams and we just did it based on who we wanted to see, I'm a San Antonio fan, and that's not going to be exciting to watch. I don't think anybody cares about seeing Indiana. With Boston hurt, nobody cares either. I mean, in the East, if out of those 4 teams, the team I most would like to see was Charlotte, because at least they're interesting. Those other teams, nobody even cares if they watch it. With Boston hurt, if Boston wasn't hurt, we want to see Boston, but nobody wants to see those guys. And then when you look at the West, people want to see Memphis, Portland, and Golden State. People want to see. Nobody necessarily cares about seeing the Spurs play a game. Listen, we're going to take and everybody's going to score 14, and we're going to go out and drag this out, and maybe we can hold this to 92 to 97 or whatever, and do that for 4 games or 3 games or whatever, and have a moral victory. Look, we didn't get blown out. Nobody want to watch. I mean, it's not really exciting to watch, and it's not going to help the league. So, as far as the league concerned, if San Antonio goes out and gets bumped off, and Indiana and they get bumped off right away, that's probably better for the league. They're like, you know what? These guys play nice basketball and it's good quality basketball, but it's not good for viewership. Right. Supposedly the league's viewership is supposedly down too. So you got to get these star guys out there. You got to get them like realistically. Steph Curry and Dame Lillard, they need them in
Yeah,
there.
I agree.
So back to the Knicks, like you were saying, get rid of guys, keeping guys, what's him the different stuff. The Alfred Payton thing, I gotta agree. I mean, he's a cosmetic starter at this point. I mean, I do think he'll land on another team because he does do some things like he defends. He's not great at any one particular thing, but he's probably good. I think he'd be better as a backup than a starter. So I think he'll land somewhere. So Derrick Rose starting. I mean, I think he could, but it will be interesting. I think somebody else might have to come out because Randall still has the ball in his hands a lot. RJ likes to have the ball in his hands a lot. Derrick Rose is going to want the ball in his hands too. And the other two guys we just said, Bullock or Burks, they'll just be standing in the corner waiting for somebody to throw them the ball. So they're not too bad, but I don't know. No. The good thing is Noel's not looking for the ball. Do you think there's enough shots to go around with Barrett Rose and Randall all in the starting unit?
I think so, because right now, if you look at it down the stretch of most of these games, Rose is in there with those guys now.
Yeah.
I think Rose is past that point in his career where he's trying to prove he can go out there and average 20, 25. He kind of sort of, I think, lets the game come to him. So if Randall's hot, I think he doesn't have any problems deferring to Randall or RJ. So I think Rose could play with anybody at this point, and I think he can play in any role you put him out there, 6-man starter. So I'm not really concerned about Rose. Plus, even when Rose is shooting, he's generally very efficient these days. So it's not like he's taking 20 shots to get 20 points. Rose may take 10, 15 shots, and he'll get you 20 these days. But yeah, going back to Peyton, I think Peyton has to go. He'll land on, just like you said, he'll land on another team, maybe as the backup point guard, or even a third string point guard, a nice guy to have around in case somebody gets hurt or something like that. He's not terrible. I just don't think he's a starter in the league. If Rose was to slide into the starting position, it'll be interesting to see what they do with Quickly, because Quickly isn't so much of a playmaker as he is a scorer. He is a combo guard. I think he can run the point guard, but I'm not sure he's the guy who you want out there necessarily trying to get your team into the offense, and which is why Kentucky also didn't really use him in that role, because the guys he can fill it up, right? He's a quick. Next thing you know, he comes off the bench, he gets you 10, 15 points, in a few minutes. He's that type of guy, I think, more so than distributing, and which is why I would say the Knicks, I think they would be best if they can get, let's say, Alonzo Ball in free agency as their starting point guard. The only thing that scares me with Lonzo is the price tag, right? You go out there and pay him $20 million. The rap on Lonzo is how passive he is. So I don't want a guy to be Alfred Payton with a slightly better jump shot. You get what I'm saying? So they got to be careful there, I think, depending on Lonzo. I also heard now Kyle Lowry, right, is in the mix. In theory, I like the idea of Lowry because I think he fits into what the Knicks culture, like what they're trying to build in terms of being hard-nosed, and that's what Lowry's all about. So he's not going to come in and be a liability on defense. Neither would Alonzo, but some of these other guys may. So I like the idea. Plus Lowry could shoot the 3-ball and stuff like that. He'll be out there flopping, drawing those fouls and stuff. So I could see it. It's just at what price. So they got a lot of decisions to make, like you said.
As far as the players concerned, just stand pat. Let Peyton start. Let him play his 10 minutes. Yeah, he's playing 10 minutes.
Agreed.
Let Rose play the majority of the game, and I will have Quickly, be the backup point guard, because he has range, so you gotta respect Quickly's range out there in the court. He can shoot from 35 feet, so he can shoot. But he's streaky at best. So when he gets hot, he gets hot. He could score. If not, then you could put Burks at point guard. He could be the backup point guard and move quickly to the 2. Problem with that is Burks, when he gets hot, he gets a little selfish. From what I've
Okay.
seen.
Yeah, I see that.
When he gets hot, he tends to take a lot of shots. Round the 2 the same way. But when you play the Hawks, maybe you could kind of get away with that as far as having phasing out Peyton, let Rose play more minutes and have quickly back him up. But it may not work against the the Bucks, or what they played in the previous round if they get that far. So if you play the Hawks, you probably get away with it though. But at least stand pat, let Peyton play his 10 minutes, and I would have quickly out there being a backup point guard with him and Burks in the backcourt. Let me just add on. The thought about moving RJ Barrett to the 3 position sounds good though, but I'm not moving him for any 2 guard because I'm quite sure you can find a 3 before you can find a 2 in this league. So we get a 2 guard. It can be for any 2 guard. I'm not gonna play my 3 guard for Gilchrist, so to speak, and nothing like that or somebody like that. So no. So be careful with RJ Barrett to a 3 guard because it might be better at the 2.
I think that I don't think I would change the lineup just because it's been working so far. So because it's been working, I wouldn't change it from that thing. Right. RJ Barrett being moved, I think it might be better for his career because don't get me wrong, he hits threes and he makes shots, but
40% 3-point shooting.
Yeah, I think he can, but if you watch him, like I watch him and I don't know. He just doesn't seem like the guards of the future. Like, when you look at C.J. McCollum and you look at R.J. Barrett, do you see that type of? Like, put it this way: let's say one of those point guards got hurt. Do you have confidence in R.J. Barrett bringing the ball up the court and handling the ball and distributing it? I don't. No.
You know,
so he can't really handle that role as a guard. Being that backup or being interchangeable in that way. Don't get me wrong; he can play the guard. But you wouldn't have confidence in him as the guy that's going to bring the ball up if something happens. As far as those other guys, I like Lonzo Ball, but like you said, I wouldn't give him more than that one deal they've been giving out 5 for 70, like I think 5 for 85 or 17 million a year. You know who else an interesting option? Devontae Graham for a lot less. Devontae Graham from the Hornets you could probably get for maybe 40 million for 4, maybe less than that.
Now, is he a free agent?
Yeah. Devontae Graham's a free agent. He shoots better than all those guys we named. He passes the ball willingly. The only thing I would be concerned about is that he's kind of smallish. He's along the lines of the Sexton Garland stuff.
How about starting Derrick Rose, having backup Derrick Rose for next year?
That's possible. Yeah, that's possible. A guy like Devontae Graham, yeah, that's possible.
How about finding a suitable backup and put Rose as the starting point guard?
That's not a bad idea. That's not a bad idea at all. Not at all.
What about in terms of threes for the Knicks? Would it be a reach to like gamble on like a guy like Cam Reddish? Because you can probably buy low right now for a Reddish, right? Considering how many guards and everything else Atlanta has, they're probably willing to move him.
The Knicks could actually use a guy like that because Cam Reddish does everything. Cam Reddish can bring the ball up. He can pass, rebound, shoot. Cam Reddish is probably one of the best defenders in the league.
Plus, former. It doesn't hurt that he played with RJ, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they'll like that.
And then you whisper, and eventually down the line, you start whispering in Zion's ear too, right? To get the band back together. That'll be 2 out of the 3.
The sad thing about it is I'm sure Nike's got some incentives in that contract for moving.
Yeah.
They always do.
How you guys feel about Malcolm Brogdon?
I think it's Malcolm Brogdon. I like him. I don't understand why he fell out of favor. It seems like kind of strange with Indiana, like what happened. Like I think that has to do with the coach though, because that whole team seems disjointed. Miles Turner, he don't even want to play there no more. I don't know what happened. Yeah.
I like Brogdon, but I don't like him. And what I mean by that is he's efficient. I think he's a good player, but I don't personally know if I could watch or if I want to watch Brogdon for 82 games as a Knicks fan. That style, I think would just – granted, he's effective with it, but I don't know if I could watch it. I just don't care for his game. As effective as it is, I don't really care for his game. But I wouldn't be upset if we got him because he is a good player.
I got a good deal. You were just talking about willingness to trade people. The Knicks do have the cap space. How much they give Mitch up? Give Mitch up and give him over there for Miles Turner. Miles Turner can hit threes. Miles Turner is definitely going to block shots, and he definitely brings something different than New Orleans. Noel's not going to shoot at all. Miles Turner can do some things they both can't do, and he would automatically become the starter. So
yeah, I think that's actually one of the things that's been floating around out there is them potentially bringing in a guy like that. Another guy who's supposedly fallen out of favor, who the Knicks supposedly love a lot, is and we've seen him recently, Jaron Jackson, right? Senior, junior,
yeah,
right? Because he's been injured, right? And for whatever reason, he seems to be falling out of favor in Memphis. So there's rumors that they the Knicks have a lot of interest there in him.
I don't think he'll be a good fit. I mean, realistically, they'd have to make a decision because I think the Knicks, this is a pivotal point for the Knicks right now. What I mean by that is that if you look at it, and I'm gonna compare them to the Nets in this way, the only reason the Nets actually are able to function is because Kyrie and Harden and Durant are friends. When you get a guy like Randall coming, Randall's playing his style of play. Jaron Jackson is still trying to come up, so he's going to want that ball. When you bring these guys in that they hungry and they want to be the star too or something, that's not going to work out too well because I don't think Jaron Jackson. One of the reasons they don't like him is because he wanted to come back in and he wanted to assume where he was. He didn't want to come in and work his way back in. He came back in and said he was Jaron Jackson and that he should be the number one option, and they thought differently. So he's going to come to the Knicks. He's going to assess the roster, and automatically he's going to be like, "Yep, I guess I'm the number 2 option behind Randall." That's going to be day one. Yeah.
If he could go out there and produce on the court, I don't care what option he considers himself or supposedly is. To be honest with you, because the last thing I think the Knicks are getting better, which is why we're in the 4th seed. But we're not in a position to have people come in and just be role players at this point. We still need additional pieces and guys who are borderline stars who could potentially be stars. It's not like, all right, we got Randall, he's our star, and we could just get a bunch of role players around Randall. We still need star power.
I'm telling you, the guy that the Knicks should go after, and I don't think they'll go after. I don't know if they can get him now. The guy they should have went after was Miles Bridges.
Yeah, Charlotte's gonna have some decisions eventually. They're
gonna have to pay him
because Terry Rozier, right? He had the same exact deal as Julius Randle, right? So eventually they're gonna have to decide whether, right? Because you have LaMelo there at the point.
Yeah,
Terry Rozier is technically the point, but they kind of have him playing the off guard, right? When LaMelo is out there, but he's technically a point guard. Then you have, like you mentioned earlier, Devontae Graham. You have all these guys, and all of them deserve opportunities. They're all good. So do you pay Terry Rozier? Do you re-up him? Because he's been playing well. Do you pay him? Do you eventually pay Miles Bridges? LaMelo eventually, if he continues to grow the way he's playing and doesn't get hurt, he's going to get paid.
He's a max player. Yeah, LaMelo's a max player. I think the only reason it's working out for them right now is because LaMelo's tall. Because LaMelo could play 2 guards. If not, they'd have a problem too. It would be the Colin Sexton, Darius Garland thing all over again. But because LaMelo's tall, he can go defend 2 guards. So Terry Rozier is allowed to play the off guard. But I could tell you this: if I was the team, LaMelo's definitely staying. So out of all those guys, that's the one guy. Yeah, he's staying.
And then you have to pay Bridges just based on that. Right? Because
they play well together. LaMelo and Bridges.
Partner. But then you also have other guys who are very
PJ Washington,
Bridges, right? And I would say he's good, right? I seen him PJ Washington.
Yep. I mean, it's a lot of teams with a lot of interest and issues. Like I could see teams. I'll give you this. I'm pretty much sure that San Antonio was saying trade for Mitch Robinson. You would just have to. You could probably get one of those guys too. They're not going to give you Murray, but you could probably get Walker, Vasil, or Rudy Gay. I think he's on the end of his deal or something. But you could probably get one of those Keldon Johnson. I think they higher on Keldon Johnson than probably any of those guys. So I don't think he
Yeah,
would be.
they seem to like Keldon Johnson. Did he go to Kentucky?
Yeah, and that's the one the Knicks would want.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly. The Knicks will want him just because he went to Kentucky.
Kentucky.
He
Yeah.
is a nice developing young player, but I could see them wanting him just because he went to Kentucky. But I kind of like Lonnie Walker, to be honest with you, too. The guy's athleticism is off the charts.
I think he would probably fit in more in the Knicks because he's another guy that he's learned that he could be effective without having the ball in his hand all the time.
So I like Lonnie Walker. I like him a lot.
Yeah. He's not. I think he realizes. Well, San Antonio will do that to you. They'll humble you quick.
Yeah.
So I think any player they can get from the Spurs will help you out. They're gonna be a team player because they got no choice but to be.
Agreed.
Little back.
No, I mean, I do think the Knicks are definitely going in the right direction, and I'm happy to see them where they're at. I just think that they should. I don't want to see them start going too overboard, getting rid of too many guys, and doing all this stuff, trying to chase like we could win next year. Nah, don't give up on everybody and throw the farm and trying to win next year. Because realistically, let's say even if you did that, right? Everybody think about it this way. I like the Nets, and everybody's all over the Nets, right? Oh, the Nets can't do this. You realize that the big three played 10 games together, right? 10. And they still won 47 games. What if they'd have played 72 games together? What would the record have been like? So all these teams going out building, they play 72 games together next year, fully healthy, and after practicing and playing together, I guarantee you it'll be in the 50-plus win category.
Right.
Yeah, easily. Think about it. The Knicks won 40 something in the 72 games.
Yeah.
Won what, 41, 42 games? Something. So you know the Nets, a healthy Nets team is going to win 50 plus games easily.
So it's like one of those things where I think I would tell you this: if I looked at the Nets and I looked at the teams that compete, I would think that the Knicks would be one of the tougher competition just because they play defense. They play defense, and they play basically. They don't get discouraged. They play hard the whole week, all the way through. And like certain teams, you can go out there and you could beat the hell out of them, and they'll quit. You watch the games. There's games dudes that'll quit.
I think that discourages a lot of teams when they play against the Knicks. That they, for the most part, are like you said, every possession they're playing hard usually.
So I'm gonna give you guys an update right now. Right now, Portland's winning 52 to 31, and the Lakers are losing to New Orleans.
So yeah, it's dangerous times for LA, but I could easily see LA winning that play-in if they do end up in the play-in.
So this is a segue into a question we had. If the Lakers with AD and LeBron James play their A games, will they repeat? If I can, let me answer first. No. I'm going to tell you right now, the key to this team, and people don't realize it, is getting rid of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee and replacing them with Drummond and this guy is the reason they're going to lose. Let me tell you what. I love Drummond to death, but Drummond is an up and down guy personally where he needs to be involved in the offense. And if he's not involved, his energy doesn't match it. And you can tell that he's not always engaged. Whereas Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee went out there and bullied people in the playoffs last year. They literally bullied half these guys, had dudes intimidated. What Dwight Howard did to dude on Denver last year, he had him all. He didn't even know what to do. He had never faced somebody being that physical with him before. And Drummond is not going to do that. They don't have the defensive anchors to do it. Anthony Davis doesn't want to mix it up. That's not his thing. He wants to shoot threes. And the supporting cast, they just not the same. Like, I mean, I like guys like Horton Tucker, and those guys are good, and Kuzma. But what's going to happen when they got to go against somebody right now? They can't even beat. They're having a hard time with guys that was in the no-name guys. I don't think those names strike any fear in anybody. So you got Carmelo Anthony out there against the Lakers playing against Taylor Horton Tucker and Kyle Kuzma. He's looking at it like, yeah, this is not even right. So they don't like. I don't get me wrong. You're gonna laugh, and this sounds crazy. They're still better than the Clippers. If those two play a game with the Clippers, they still beat the Clippers. And I would say that they might even make the championship. But I don't know. I just don't think they could beat I couldn't see them beating Philly or the Nets. Just those two. I couldn't see it. It would have to come down to Joel Embiid would have to not be himself. If Joel Embiid plays himself, and I'm a Net fan, I would tell you this right now: Philly is the best team in the East. If Joel Embiid plays how Joel Embiid plays, it's going to be tough for any team for them to beat them. So it's just going to be real tough. The Nets going to have to be fully healthy and fully engaged to beat the Sixers, but I couldn't see the Lakers matching up well with either one of those teams. LeBron will be a wash with KD. Kyrie is going to kill this guy, and they got no answer for Harden. AD was him, yeah, he's going to be out there, but again, he don't like to mix it up. And Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan and those dudes, that's what their game is predicated on now. They're not really highly skilled, even though Griffin looks a little better. They're physical guys. So it'll just be tough. I think they lost a lot on the defensive end. I think they could score the points, and I think they do it, but I don't know if they're as good as defensive.
Yeah, I don't think I have too much to add to what you said. They lost enforcers. I think Montrezl Harrell is a bit of a enforcer, but he's kind of undersized, and he seems like he fell out of favor over there already. Then you have, like you said, you have Gasol. I don't know what's going on with him. He's not an enforcer, but he's still a serviceable big man, I would say, but he's not, a difference maker at this point. So, yeah, I don't really have too much to add on to what you said. I don't see the Lakers. I don't even see them necessarily coming out of the West this year. A lot of it, too, is the health of AD and LeBron. Those guys have battled injuries all season long. Granted, a lot of other teams are banged up, too. You have Donovan Mitchell, right? Utah going into the playoffs with Donovan Mitchell being out for a while with that ankle injury. So there's a lot of teams. Most teams are have players hurt. But I think the Lakers, LeBron and AD, they missed a ton of games. I think they're probably still hurt. They just playing, right? Because it's playoff time. It's time to go, so to speak. I just don't think they have enough, in my opinion, this season to pull it off. I could see them maybe making a deep playoff run, like you said. Western Conference Finals wouldn't surprise me. I don't see them making the finals, though, let alone winning the championship.
I'm gonna give you guys an update. They went on a LeBron spurt, so now they're up 10. So well, LeBron checked in and went on a LeBron spurt, so now they're up 10 over New Orleans.
The key to Lakers, I think, is Drummond, really, because Drummond is 15, 20 rebounds every night, no matter who he plays against, no matter what. He'll be 15, 20 rebounds, but he could be guarding Lou Center right now. He don't find a way to get 15 rebounds.
He's gonna get his board, yeah.
That's what he does, But that being said, I think the role players, particularly Wes Matthews, is the reason why they ain't that good. He's having an awful year.
Yeah.
Replacing Danny Green, who's having a very good year.
That's true. That's true.
He's the real key to Lakers' success more than anybody else on that roster. Montrezl Harrell, you know what I'm saying? Come playoff time, he'll be ready to play. Whether he starts, he'll be ready to play. I believe in him to be in the game and be impactful or play his game. I like Drummond. Drummond's a rebounder. I think he get easier shots having AD and Bron on the court with him at the same time. So the key to me is Wes playing up the ability to shoot the ball, and Kuzma. If the two guys is balling, they got a shot to repeat. If you guys not balling well or having off games, they ain't gonna make it.
Plus, one thing I noticed was Dennis Schroeder played better when LeBron was out, right? When he was actually the guy with the ball in his hands. Now LeBron is back playing that point forward role. Schroeder, he's kind of taking a back seat, so to speak, as he should. But his game, what else can he do well besides break the defense down? He's not like a serious deep ball threat. He can knock down an occasional three, but he's not a spot-up shooter. They would have been better off with a guy at this point in the seasons, J.J. Redick or something like that, right?
They tried. I think
Which
they
is
tried to get him.
that's what Wes Matthews, like you mentioned, Theo. That's supposed to be Wes Matthews' role, but the guy just can't hit a three this season. He's been
Right.
pretty bad.
Right.
You know what's gonna happen? Whoever the Knicks let go, he'll be on the Lakers next year, whether it's Bullock or Burks. That's who LeBron will be looking to pick up. One of those dudes. I mean, you look at teams, you have to have those guys. So the way the game's played now, you got to have those guys, the guys that hit the threes. Whatever you don't have them, and to Barrett coming back the way he has dramatically helped the team knocking down those threes. Randall too.
He was on the Lakers, Bullock, right?
Yeah.
And they let him walk for nothing, you know. And granted, don't get me wrong, some of the guys that they brought in as like sort of replacements for him are decent players, like THT, right? Torton,
Yeah.
Halen Tucker. He's a good player, but he needs the ball in his hands. He's more of a playmaker type of guy. He needs
to the basket, yeah.
And when you got LeBron pounding the ball, right? Granted, LeBron he's not necessarily a selfish player, but LeBron needs shooters around him. Now, which is why the Drummond dynamic is interesting, because now you have Drummond clogging up some of those driving lanes for LeBron, because LeBron is not necessarily a shooter himself. Yeah. If you move Drummond away from the basket, you might as well sit him down, because he's useless then. He can't do anything outside of the paint.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it interesting, you know, with some of these guys. THT trying to get in there and slash with Drummond clogging it up. What do you do? Mm-hmm. Which is why they love playing AD at the center, right? Because AD can bring the defender away from the basket to open up those driving lanes. But AD, as we mentioned a million times already, doesn't like mixing it up. So AD always likes to be out there with an enforcer next to him. And it's kind of hard in today's NBA to have a big the size of AD not wanting to be a big. You know, it's kind of hard.
You can't have two guys. You can't have two big guys on the court that don't want to be big. Like Drummond. Like Drummond, I love. Like you said, like I agree with Theo. He's gonna get his boards and stuff like that. But if you watch Drummond's body language, if he don't get that ball, if he go down that trip court 5 times, he don't touch that ball, he can be sulking. He ain't gonna be running as fast and nothing like that. And when you get on this game, just you get these LeBron runs and these AD runs where they just like LeBron is bugging out right now. I mean, they win, but he's shooting threes from 3 feet behind the line. I'm like, listen, man, that's. I mean, it's nice you could do that because you're LeBron, but that's not who you are.
Because you think about it, right? With Drummond is used to getting the ball in the post, backing the guy down for 10 seconds because they still was letting him get away with it. And then he'll go up, he'll get fouled, or he'll put you through the hoop. That's just what he is, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But now LA's offense is pretty much LeBron pick and roll with AD, right? Or pick and pop, we should say, because AD ain't trying to roll to that basket no more. Occasionally he'll go in there and slam it, but he's not really trying to roll to the basket. He prefers the pop.
Yeah.
Outside of that, as that's happening, what are you doing? Like, what is Drummond doing besides
standing in the way? Yeah, standing next to the paint in the way.
That's when the frustration with Drummond happens, right? When they run those 5 pick and pops with LeBron and AD on the 6-1, Drummond ain't getting back.
No,
that rebound, you know.
No,
then even like Kuzma wants to touch that ball occasionally. You know, those guys still want to prove that they can be quote unquote star type of players in the league.
All right. So I'm gonna ask you guys a question, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I like LeBron. Listen, I think LeBron is great. I think the stuff he does off the court is great. But I'm gonna ask you a question, and I always get debates on this. Can you tell me one player that LeBron has ever made better? One. Tell me one player whose statistics got better playing with LeBron on any team he's played with. One.
I think he's made role players better. I don't think like stars are always pretty much stars with him for the most part. Like I wouldn't say he necessarily made Kyrie better, but in a way he did to some degree in a sense that not so much from a basketball standpoint in terms of hey, I got to create for him and stuff like that. But I think he made Kyrie better in the sense that Kyrie didn't have to be that leader, right?
Okay, I give you that the leadership. I give you the leadership.
Because before LeBron got there, Kyrie was trying to be that leader when he first came in, and he just didn't seem like he was able to do it. Once LeBron came back, right, wrote that letter, I'm coming back, I think Kyrie got a lot better because he didn't have to be that leader. Then Kyrie goes to Boston, right? He proved again over there that he wasn't necessarily that leader type. So from that perspective, I would say he helped like a guy like Kyrie, but not so much on the court. But a guy I would say he helped on the court is look at a perfect example of it would be somebody like a Tristan Thompson, right? This guy basically got a fat contract based on LeBron, right? Now look at him. Look at him in Boston. He was never that good.
He was never that good.
Yeah, Anderson, Varejao, right? Where's those guys at? Once LeBron went to Miami, Varejao was out of the league.
I will tell you this.
Guys, I would say he made better.
I will tell you this. Looking at LeBron with that, right, and everything else, right. I'm gonna put something out there. If LeBron was to sacrifice his own stuff, any of his own thing, and make any of those guys that stars, allow them to be stars, he probably would have a much higher winning percentage in championships than what he does. If at times he was decided that instead of being the focal point, that he was saying that he was going to sacrifice, I'll give you a couple of big time players. David Robinson took a backseat to Duncan. If David Robinson went out there and decided that he was going to be the man, Spurs wouldn't have won that game.
I think LeBron did that I would say he did that for Kyrie when he came back. Because remember the big shot that Kyrie hit over Steph to win that championship. If LeBron wasn't taking that back seat, that would have been LeBron trying to force that shot, knowing that he's the outside perimeter shooter of a Kyrie or something like that. So Kyrie had his moment.
No, I agree. I think that. Oh no, that's not gonna work.
Even to AD last year, you don't think LeBron kind of let AD be AD and then figure his game out around it?
I think it's funny. I think he did, and in that case, I think he did. He shouldn't have. I think in the bubble that worked for them. I think right now that's not working for them because
they don't do that right now.
Yeah, if you're going to default to a guy, he's got to be a dominant guy. You can't default to some 7-foot jump shot shooter. And that's the problem. If I'm a default to you, if I'm LeBron and I know that I could get mine at any time, and I'm a default to you, you need to be trying to get yours at every time. I don't want to see you out there catching the ball, jab, stepping 6 times, trying to figure out whether you're going to shoot the fadeaway 20s for that 7'1". So I
think with AD, I think AD is in that period in terms of his game where his game is transitioning more to that because he's injury prone. So he's trying to figure it out. Like before these injuries started mounting up, he always somewhat had a little bit of injury history, but recently he's been out on the perimeter more than I ever seen AD, and I think it's just because he doesn't want to mix it up and get injured again. I think it's more of that than anything else. He's trying to change his game up a little bit, but maybe he's gone too far with it.
I think you're right. I gotta agree with you. I think it's somebody told him the way to prolong your career is to not do that. Then remember the Amari Stoudemire thing is a perfect example on the Knicks. When Amari Stoudemire came to the Knicks, the first thing he said is that he didn't want to play center. They went out and got Carmelo Anthony. What they do? They put him in center, and what happened? Because remember, a lot of people still don't remember who holds the record for the most 30-point consecutive games on the Knicks. Amari Stoudemire.
The crazy thing is, remember, Carmelo actually pulled that same thing, right? Where, remember, the Knicks wanted him to move to power forward as part of that, but Carmelo didn't because, he didn't want to take that
defense,
that beating down low against some of those bruisers. Whereas Carmelo, at that point in his career, he probably would have been better off doing it because he started to lose mobility.
Yeah,
so
he had a benefit from it.
small forwards on the perimeter, but he just couldn't accept, hey, I need to move to power forward because Carmelo was always strong. You're not going to get down there and bully him down low.
Yeah.
So, I've seen a couple of guys try to change their games, and some guys refuse to do it.
Didn't LeBron help Booby Gibson and Mo Williams get a new deal too?
I think all those type of guys,
I will tell you this.
J.R. Smith.
Okay. You know what? I might have phrased the question wrong. Because he helped a lot of people get money, but I didn't see any one of them get statistically better. They all got paid, but none of them got any better statistics.
Right.
They got money though. Yeah, he got people paid. Like he's still getting people paid. I give him credit for that. So you gotta love him for that. But as far as them being better players, he took guys that were all around players and turned them to spot up shooters. Chris Bosh might have been the best power forward of all times if he wouldn't have went to Miami. His numbers on Toronto were insane. This dude was averaging 26, 12, and 4. He went to Miami. He turned into a 20-foot jump shot shooter who got 17 and 8.
Well, look at same thing with Kevin Love, right?
Yeah, Kevin Love, 26 and 14, and was it 5 assists.
But the
17 points, 3-point shooter.
That stretch though that you could say is LeBron. How many consecutive finals did LeBron go to? Right.
But you know what? That's like playing horseshoes. It ain't about how many you made, how many you win.
He was going making it every season.
I keep playing a lotto too. I keep playing a lotto, but it don't count unless I win. So he made the play. He's not Bill Russell. Bill Russell won those championships. He went.
It was hard.
8 straight. Won what? 3, 2.
If you're an organization, now think about it. If you're an organization, which is why the Lakers brought him in, right?
Yeah.
From one of the worst teams to immediately a championship. LeBron is going to get you, assuming he's healthy, LeBron is going to, there's no question whether he's going to make the playoffs.
Oh,
right?
no. LeBron is great. LeBron is great for organizations. I'm not discounting that at all.
So
LeBron is great for your organization.
And
but at the same time, LeBron is scorched earth. I guarantee you this, when LeBron leaves the Lakers, we won't see the Lakers in the playoffs for the next 5-6 years after that. You want to bet?
Yeah. That's the only thing. It's almost like you're selling. You got to mortgage your future when you bring him in. When you bring him in, he's gonna the coach is probably whoever they have in place is going to go on.
All the young draft pick players are going for old dudes that he likes.
But in return, he's going to get you to the conference finals or the finals and put you in position to win. And that's
he'll put you in position to win.
Like let's say hypothetically speaking, LeBron, for whatever reason, says, I want to be a New York Knick. I want to finish my career over there, this, that. In that scenario, I don't think they would necessarily move Tibbs, right? But RJ, all those guys will probably be flushed out, right? As part of the deal, right? But in return, I think assuming LeBron was healthy, I would say the Knicks, we wouldn't even be sitting here wondering if they're going to make the playoffs. You
weren't worried about that. I guarantee you this. They'd have to have a long talk with John Randall, because if I was him, I would consider not returning, because he'll never be the John Randall he is now. LeBron then.
But think they're pretty much going to be, I would say, in contention to make the finals and everything else. That's what
he's going to be in contention to average 18, 6, and 2. And he's going to be out there standing in the corner waiting to catch the 3, because he ain't going to be handling the ball no more.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. It's just as an organization,
it puts you in the championship. Yeah, you do become a championship contender. So from an organizational standpoint, it is helpful. It definitely helps. But at the same time, like, you got to be ready to win in the next 3 years with LeBron, wherever he goes, or 2 years, because after that, which think about it, we've been as people in New York, we've been trying to tear the Garden down for how long?
As an up and
coming there for 2 years, it'll be over.
Yeah, as an up-and-coming player, you don't necessarily want to play with LeBron unless it's one of those, let me try to get my ring early and then move on from him type of thing. But as you're up-and-coming, like you said, Julius Randle's 26 years old. you may get a ring out of it, maybe not, but you don't necessarily want to play with a LeBron per se in that scenario. But if you're one of these veterans, like I think AD was starting to reach that point, I gotta solidify my career, right, with that ring.
Legacy, yeah, it's legacy.
Legacy, and that's why I think he was excited to go over there to LA, and I can't blame him because LeBron immediately put you in contention to win.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. So I bought up Julius Randle, and I'm gonna just say it right off the top. If the Knicks don't offer him the max contract, and I was him, I would just walk. I wouldn't even use no negotiations. Listen, this is what they paying people. Look at my numbers. Look what they paying the people with the numbers. Now he can't get that super max, but you can't. You right now he's making $20 million. You can't offer me 20 and a half or 21 million to be on. Like he's gonna be on one of the top three. He's gonna be on an All NBA team player. Forget about All Star player. He's gonna be on one of the three All NBA teams. So if they don't offer him like the max money or at least close to it, or if he's not willing to negotiate just to try to help the team, you got to at least offer it to him. There's no.
I think they're in a strange position in terms of his contract because, like, you can offer him. I think the most they can offer him in an extension is 4 years, 100 and something, right?
Yeah.
Right now, he's getting 20. He signed a 3-year, $60 million deal, but the third year of the deal, only $4 million, I believe, either $4 or $6 million was guaranteed. Right? He's in the second year of the deal now, which is why this was fully guaranteed for the $20 million. So if he accepted I believe it's like a 4-year, 120, something like that, with incentives, it could be pushed up. I know it's over 100. So he would average out 25, 26 million, somewhere around there, between 25 and 27 million, which is, I think he deserves it. I would offer him the max. Financially for him, now, the better business decision would be for him to wait until next season when he can get, I believe, 200 and something million. The only thing is obviously he puts himself at risk, assuming, the whole injury thing, right? He goes out here, he gets hurt, or his numbers slip, right? He goes back down to averaging 17 points somehow because they brought in more people, more help in free agency. Now he's not going to even get the 25 million or 27 million he can get this summer.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know how much, because they own his rights, I would say either way I would offer it to him, but I would go out and sign whoever I'm going to sign as a free agent first, right? That way, because I could always go above the cap if needed to extend him. I wouldn't be able to
get that,
I wouldn't be able to get the other guys, though, if I immediately pay Randall. So you pay those other guys, I would say, and then just offer Randall the max. That's what I would do. To me, he's deserving of it, though. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Proven player in his prime, more prime years ago. Give him the max and move on.
Yeah. And I looked, it's 4 for, I got to stop butchering his name, Julius Randle, but he's 4 for 106 with incentives. So if I was, as sad to say, looking at the economy in the world, I would take the deal. I wouldn't try to wait it out or anything. Looking at the way the
Plus, I mean, this is his coming out party, so to speak, right? Big season for him. There's no guarantee that he's going to stay at this level. I don't think even if he did slip because they brought in more players, let's say, I don't think he'll slip much. It depends on who they bring in. If they bring in Alonzo Ball, his numbers will still be up because Lonzo's not out there trying to outscore him.
No.
You bring in a Zach LaVine somehow or something like that, right? Then he may have some problems in terms of his numbers. They may win more games, whatever the case may be, but his numbers may dip. So he may not necessarily even get more out of waiting. It depends on who they bring in free agency because his numbers may slip. Right now, he's playing the best I think he will play in his career.
I agree. I got to agree with you. I mean, I think what's in the only if there's any improvement, what is his room of improvement? Defense, maybe.
And I think he's been solid there.
I think he's been solid there too. So I really can't even see what they could do. I mean, Zach LaVine is a possibility since he's only got after this season he's only got 1 year left on the deal. So that's usually the time where guys start where they'll make an offer to him and he'll either sign it or they'll trade him. So he's in a prime position. But I wouldn't mess around with. If I'm the Knicks, you know what? We've been looking for. I'm gonna put it out there. We've been looking for a player of this level to be the face of the franchise. At least to me, at least to this point, I loved Carmelo and Amari and all of them, but I don't think it was good. But did it seem sustainable that whole time? Like like it didn't seem like it was winning behind it. It just seemed like it was statistics. The last person who put the Knicks in a position to win like this was Patrick Ewing. That was the last guy they had out there that was out there. Like his numbers actually contribute, or you could see the wins equate with his numbers. So I don't think they should mess around with that.
Yeah, I think it wasn't sustainable before because they mortgaged the future. Like when they first got Carmelo, they brought in a bunch of veterans around him, but that wasn't a sustainable model for the future because Jason Kidd was already old. They
Yeah,
had Kenyon Martin, who was already older, right? They brought in a veteran from overseas and Pablo Prigioni, right, who was good, but he was older. Amari, was injury prone. He wasn't too old, but he was injury prone. So plus they didn't have many draft picks because Isaiah was too busy selling them, right? As part of Eddie Curry's deal and everything else. So I think we mortgaged the future. This time we don't have that problem, right? So why not just give Randall the money, continue to build through free agency and or the draft, both, because we have all our picks now. We have additional picks on top of our own and just keep it moving. Give them the money and keep it moving. Continue to build.
yeah. I mean, I think at 26, if you look around, the league and in the East, realistically, if the Knicks build this correctly, remember the Knicks at 26 are going up. KD and those guys are 32. Kyrie, those guys are 31, 32 years old. So the Knicks was in the Knicks, even if it took 2-3 years, these guys. I mean, I love them to death, but they're not going to be the same at 35. So especially after sustaining major injuries. So the Knicks, you could have Julius Randle at 28 competing for the championship. Realistically, right? Now's the time to put the pieces around. Make the stake in the ground. This our guy, and put other guys that around him. I wouldn't say solely built through the draft. I might bring somebody like Levine because he's on the same timeline. I think Levine is 25, 26 too. They might have came in at the same time.
Something like that, yeah. Plus, what I like about Levine too, as we touch on him, is he played for Tibbs already, right, in Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah. That they go back, and there's a lot of people that said, and I really agree with it, that when Minnesota made that deal for Jimmy Butler, was saying that the deal they made, they traded the wrong guy. I heard that Tibbs wanted to keep Levine. He wanted to let Wiggins leave. But they let Wiggins go and was kept. So there was something with that. They sent Levine off. But speaking of Tibbs, now that we're on that, who's the coach of the year? Because I only got two candidates. I got to go with Tibbs or Monty Williams. Phoenix. I don't think there's many teams that thought Phoenix was going to make the playoffs. So,
I like the way they closed last season in the bubble, right? They won like 8 games in the bubble. Whether I thought they were going to carry that over to this season, probably not. I don't think many people did. Adding CP3, I thought they would get marginally better because that's what CP3 does, right? You bring him in, he improves your organization, but I didn't think they would go from not even in the playoffs to the number one
a 3 seed or something,
right? Or something crazy. Best record in the league or second best record in the league. So, man, I would say as much as I love Tibbs, I would probably give it to Monty Williams just based on that. But at the same time, who did predict the Knicks, right, to be in the 4th seed? Yeah. We were in the lottery to who was going to get the Cade Cunningham, Cunningham sweepstakes to start the season. Jalen Suggs sweepstakes.
Yeah.
We're in the 4th seed, so job well done by Tibbs too.
Yeah.
Tibbs, Monty Williams, Doc Rivers. Philly been in shambles.
Yeah, Doc Rivers. That's a good one.
They've been a big tease for a lot of years. high expectations and falling short. Talent been there, but they got a new chef and Doc Rivers, man. And so I guess his pot is Gumbalaya is working right now. But he's got number one seed. They're playing well. They've been number one team in the East all year long. Give it to maybe a week or two, but they've been in the first place all year long. So I see Doc Rivers getting it. But for me, I'm gonna be biased and say I'm gonna say Tiz because he did more with less. And that's a lot right now. So I'm gonna go with Tiz. But any one of the three guys are well deserving.
So, who do we say is the most improved player of the year? Because that's a little tough. Like, what do you guys got for that one?
I got Randall. He wasn't too bad last year, but he just improved to me in every facet of his game. From defense, 3-pointers, better teammate, leader, post up game. I say Randall.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Randall too. I mean, but Randall really deserves the award. He's really improved all aspects from his previous year. People complaining and bad shot selections, forcing shots, and other things. So from last year to this year, he made a drastic improvement all around his game. So I'll go with Randall.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with both of you guys. I'm gonna even say something even crazier. I wouldn't be surprised. He's not gonna win it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him receive like an MVP vote too. I'm pretty much sure him and Chris Paul will probably each receive like an MVP vote.
Right.
So I got to go with Randall. So looking at this too, we talked about all the different playoff teams. Do we think the Clippers will reach at least the Western Conference Finals this year? I mean, I personally don't think so. I mean, between having to beat the Lakers, Phoenix, possibly Utah, Denver, I don't know if they're gonna make the Western Conference Finals. I don't know. I mean, they put a lot of money and a lot of different things in it, but even them, I mean, outside of Paul George and Kawhi, you got Serge, who seemed like he's been in and out of the season or whatever. I've never been a huge Patrick Beverly fan. I mean, nice defender, real pestery. That combination of him and Reggie Jackson doesn't intimidate anybody. The two guard situation, I mean, could you tell me who starts at the two guard for the Clippers right now?
I think it's
Paul George, right?
Yeah.
Paul George. So think about it this way. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard start and whatever point guards. Who's the 4 and the 5 that start?
Zubac.
I think they've been using Morris as the starting power forward, I think.
So realistically, I mean, I would say this, you and live. The Clippers are the more improved version of the Portland Trailblazers. So the Clippers, their two guys just happen to be better than Dame and CJ. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard is better than Dame and CJ. But their supporting cast, both teams are basically the same or similar. None of those guys strike any fear in anybody. As a matter of fact, Portland might have a little better supporting cast. But the Clippers, I mean, I think that instead of mortgaging yourself on these old guys, like personally, just watching some of this game, right, the Lakers in New Orleans, I'd rather have Jackson Hayes than Serge Ibaka on that team. He would help them more. You look at some of these younger guys that people are not really giving the credit to. Everybody thinks they need these veteran guys to win. If you're a veteran and you've been on a team and you haven't won before, then you're not really helping by being a veteran. So
yeah,
I don't really get it. Why they don't intertwine or bring in some good fresh blood or something. Like the Clippers traded away those young guys for old guys. Then the Clippers trade away the guard they had from Jerome, I think his name Jerome Robinson or something. Then the Clippers are also the one. Aren't they the ones who gave the Nets Landry Shamet? No, he went through Philly first, right? But they gave up Landry Shamet.
I think he went. Yeah, I want to say Shamet went from Philly to the Clippers, right?
Yeah, and then the Clippers just basically let him. He wouldn't have helped them. So it's just some stuff with the Clippers. I mean, then the Clippers give up what are the 6th man of the year, give them to Atlanta. So, and what did they get from it?
One of the six, they let last year's 6-man basically walk in free agency, which was Montrezl Harrell, right?
Yeah, so they let Montrezl Harrell go. Then they traded the other guys for Atlanta. I don't even know who they got from Atlanta in that deal. But
Yeah, got rid of Lou Williams.
yeah, Lou Williams to Atlanta. I don't know what they got in that deal. So I don't know. I think the Clippers got some chemistry issues, and they're trading away proven commodities and talent and stuff, and not even bringing in comparable people. So it's not necessarily anything that like they're gonna put it on Paul George, but at some point, I mean, going out getting 25 points and 8 rebounds and 4 assists, I don't know what else he could do more than that. I
Plus,
mean,
they already, like last year, they put it on Doc Rivers. I don't think it was
yeah,
necessarily Doc Rivers' fault.
I
That's what
mean,
got canned, you know.
the funniest thing is when you talk about guys coming up clutch, what do they mean by coming up clutch? You mean hitting big shots in big moments, or do you mean putting up numbers? Because those are two different things. Like you have guys that go out there that'll get 25 points and in the last 3 minutes don't score. Then that's a whole different thing. You can't really teach that. You can't teach somebody at the key moments not to curl up. That comes from inside of you.
Yeah, I think the Clippers, they went into this weird, like win now mode with PG-13 and Kawhi, and I think those two kind of sort of have similar, like you said, to Portland, where those two have overlapping skills. Would they have been better off maybe keeping Alexander, right? Not even trading for PG-13, right? Because Alexander, look at him now. Once he went over to OKC, I would say, at least for the time being, he's probably the face of that franchise over there. He
Yeah.
became a completely different guy. So would
Yep.
they be better continuing to stay the course and go that route? I don't know if Doc Rivers would have survived that long route to a championship, but long term they may have been better off because now they mortgage the future to make this pairing of Kawhi and PG, and I don't think it's a championship pairing with that supporting cast, like you said. I like Mars going over there. They were forced to pay him pretty well. He got 4 years, $64 million, I think.
Yeah.
They had no other options. He's a good player, but they had no other options because their money was tied up. Zubac, I think, is pretty good, and he's a serviceable big man. Reggie Jackson, I think his best days, I don't think he's seen his best days since he was in OKC with Westbrook and them. So it's just the way their team is built is just strange to me. I don't know. I don't see him making the finals. I don't even know if I have them in the Western Conference Finals, to be honest with you. But like you said, I could easily see PG-13 because he's the easiest guy to target, being the fall guy again, no matter how he performs.
Yeah.
And we're not going to pin it on Kawhi, I think, just based on they like him, right, for the most part. So even if he underperforms somehow, they'll come up with something.
He was hurt or something.
Yeah, he was hurt or something. They'll give him some pass some way. But
Yeah.
George, for whatever reason, he takes a lot of criticism in the media. Sometimes rightfully so, but a lot of times I would say it's unfair towards him.
Yeah, I thought that part of the Paul George thing that kind of threw me off last year is when they said that players on the team were upset that he got to take days off of practice like Kawhi Leonard. I mean, at the end of the day, right? That's the coach's decision. Paul George can't decide that he don't want to show up for practice or something. That's the coach's decision to say that he put him on the same level as Kawhi or something. And plus, too, I mean, that's where it gets dicey too. So you okay with Kawhi just not coming to practice, but me, you not okay with not coming to practice. So because Kawhi won championships, so that gives him a free pass on practices and games and stuff. Yeah, that's. I mean, first of all, I mean the Clippers are the Clippers. That's why Kawhi's not on the Lakers, because as much as he probably did want to go to the Lakers, they weren't going to agree to this foolishness. His uncle's on a private jet with him. I practice when I practice. I need to have this amount of games off. I need to have this and that. But the Clippers agreed to it. So if they agreed to do all of that, and you got one other player that occasionally, not even as much as Kawhi, he may want to miss a couple of practice, and that's what he agreed to, you need to take that up with management.
Plus, I mean, you gave up 4 or 5 picks for PG.
Yeah.
You better show him a little bit of favoritism, you know.
Yeah.
You gave up, you mortgaged your future for him. So obviously you thought he was on that same level, whether he is or not, who knows? But you gave up so much for him. You put him on that pedestal.
Yeah, and now you want a disgruntled superstar? You're gonna get him out there and then tell him, "Nah, you can't do the same thing as Kawhi." You done paid him 27 or some supermax deal and have him pissed off. They just signed him to another supermax deal recently or something.
With Kawhi's deal, I think he can opt out after this summer.
Yeah, Kawhi, they don't know what's gonna happen with him, but they made sure they locked up Paul George. He took the money.
Yeah, he took the money, especially given like the injury history. Kawhi has that injury history too, but I think he never had the like quote unquote major injury, right? Like Paul George with the broken leg in the Olympics.
Yeah.
So that's probably what PG was thinking of. Plus, I know he had some shoulder surgeries a couple of times and stuff like that. So he took the money. Plus, he's from there, right? Same thing with Kawhi, but he always claimed he wanted to play at home. So once he got the chance to, he took the money, which I can't blame him. But Kawhi, that's another thing with the Clippers. You mortgage your future to put these two together. And Kawhi, he's the type of guy who just may walk if it don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's definitely the case. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, the numbers are comparable. It's not like Kawhi's averaging 20, basically 25, 6.5, and 5. And listen, Paul George is averaging 23, 6, and 5. So he averaged 2 less points. I guess that means you get to miss 10 more practices or something. But that's the part of the Clippers' dysfunctionality. That's just how that goes. So this week we had some Hall of Fame inductees, Kobe and Bryant. I mean, in a real emotional one with his wife and with Jordan. We had Tim Duncan, and we had a few others. I mean, I was looking at this.
Yeah, KG.
KG. We had what's interesting is that these guys were all great, and then I was looking at the list. I mean, just to go into next year, the list of next year of people that's not in there, that's supposedly possibly going in there. But I mean, it was great to see those guys go in. I mean, KG and Duncan, that's like been matchup. That's been the matchup for all of all time. Watching those two guys go at it. Kobe was Kobe, and we know how that went. And it was I think it was just one of the great classes to see go in or something. What did you guys think of the whole Hall of Fame inductees this year?
Yeah, I thought it was great. Obviously, unfortunately, Kobe, right, is not here to actually be there in person. So that was kind of sad. But at the same time, obviously, again, well deserving for Kobe. It was nice the way they had Vanessa, his wife, come up and speak in Jordan again. So that was nice. I thought it was a nice ceremony overall. And next year's class, like you mentioned, looks great too. I believe you have Chris Bosh, Chris Webber, I believe is another one. So it's shaping up, right, to be a nice class again next year.
Paul Pierce got it too.
Yeah, Paul Pierce, yeah.
Yeah, I have no complaints with this class. It's a great class. Guys was first ballot Hall of Famers. KG, Duncan. Kobe. Guys are great, man. And both you guys have been in many wars against each other for many years, man. So and it's very emotional too. Someone as well too. And it still hurts to this day to see Kobe Bryant should not be with us, and I see him being in his orange jacket and give his speech out.
Yeah.
But those guys are very well deserving, man. Next year's class seems pretty good. Not bad this year's class though, but still pretty good as well.
Yeah. So I think with him, guys, that's a good way to wrap it up. With him, you guys have anything you want to talk about? Anything you want to say? Last final words.
Let's go Knicks. That's my final words. Getting ready for the playoffs. I think they start on the 22nd, I want to say, which is in 6 days. So I'm excited to see what my Knicks do. Finally, the Knicks are back.
Yeah, I want to second that emotion too. Let's go New York Knicks. And I will say corny dude of the week is whoever did the NFL schedule having Cowboys on the road. Week 1 against the Buccaneers. he or she could kick rocks, man. But that being said, man, you know, let's go Knicks, man.
And you know what, man? Being from New York again, let's go Knicks. One last thing to say. I'm glad to see Chris Webber make the Hall of Fame coming up. And I was a little upset to see Chris Webber and TNT part ways. But that's basically it, guys, man. Again, another great show. Appreciate talking to you guys. Everybody have a great week till we talk again.
Yes, enjoy.